Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani. Jaya Brinda Devi, Jaya Brinda Devi, Jaya Brinda Devi, Jaya Brinda Devi. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Gurudev. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Gora Haribo, 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 Gora Haribo.
Bhakti Pradedeve Satchavachaya Namo Namaha. Vrindai Hai Tosidevyaye Priyai Hai Keshavashacha Vishnu Bhakti Pradedeve Satchavachaya Namo Namaha. Vrindai Hai Tosidevyaye Priyai Hai Keshavashacha Vishnu Bhakti Pradedeve Satchavachaya Namo Namaha. Jai Tulsi Maharani. Namo Vishnu. We offer our most respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who would just like desired, who can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they're full of compassion for the fallen, conditioned souls. Panchakalpa Durvasya Kripa Sindhu Vijaya Patitanam Pavani Vaishnavi Namo Namaha. Alrighty. All right. So nice bugs. Okay, good to see everybody. Thank you. So, it's quite humid in here. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Iri Bharadhati. Gopijana Malabha Giri Bharadhari. Yasodananda Vraja Jananandana. Yasodananda Vraja Jananandana. Yamuna Tera Vanachari. Yamuna Tera Manachati. Jai Ho Radha Amadava Kunda Vihati. Jai Ho Radha Madhuva Kunda Vihari. Gopijana Malabha Giri Bharadhari. Gopijana Malabha Giri Bharadhari. Yasudananda Vraja Jananandana. Yasudananda Vraja Jananandana. Yamuna Tera Vanachari. Yamuna Tera Manachati. Jai Ho Radha Madhuva Kunja Vihari. Jai Ho Radha Madhuva Kunja Vihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya, also Tada Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace Abhaya Chanananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidvaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Maturanam Ki Jai. Jagadata Sami Ki Jai. Yamunamai Ki Jai. Srimati Lasa Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda. Hari 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 Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. Glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachani Nivashesha Srinyavadi Paschata Dejatarni. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, The 10th canto, 26th chapter, text 7. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Kvachit Dayangava Stanye Matra Bada Udukale Gachan Arjunayor Madhye Bahuvyang Tav Apatayat Kvachidayangavastanye Matra Padahudukale Gachan Arjunayor Madhye Bahuvyam Tavapatayat Kvachidayangavastanye Matra Pada Udukale Gachan Arjunayor Madhye Bahuvyam Tavapatayat Kvachidayangavastanye Matra Bada Hudukale Gachan Junayor Madhye Bahuvyam Tavapatayat. Okay. Alrighty. Kvachit. Once. Hayangava. Butter. Steinye. Engaged in stealing. Matra. By his mother. Badaha. Bound up. Udukale, to a large mortar. Gachan, moving. Arjuna Yaho, the twin Arjuna trees. Majay, between. Bahuvyam, by his hands. Tal apatayat, he made them fall. Translation. Once his mother tied him with ropes to a mortar because she had caught him stealing butter. Then, crawling on his hands, he dragged the mortar between a pair of Arjuna trees and pulled them down. So you can repeat. Once his mother tied him with ropes to a mortar because she had caught him stealing butter. Then, crawling on his hands, he dragged the mortar between a pair of Arjuna trees and pulled them down. So, purport by the servants of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, the two Arjuna trees were old and thick. They're quite old. And they towered above little Krishna's courtyard. Nevertheless, they were pulled down quite easily by the naughty child. And just I'm going to read Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, not the other ones. How could he who was tied up because he had stolen butter crawl around and knock down the two Arjuna trees? So let's read again the Sanskrit. Kvachit tayangavhastanye matra badahudu kale gachanarjunayor madje bahubhyam tavapatayat. So Om Ganad Timirandasya Gananjana Shilakaya Chakshur Unmiditam Yena Tasmai Shi Gurave Namaha. So here again, we find the residents of Vrindavan being bewildered because of these different conflicting moods or manifestations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which we mentioned in a previous class. We were talking about Odarya, which is compassion, and Aishvarya, right? And Madhurya, these three different moods what the Lord presents. And the reason I read Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, because he brings this out. He says, how could he who was tied up because he had stolen butter crawl around and knock down the two Arjuna trees? You know, here he's tied up, and how can he do this? So there's, in this particular pastime, which is actually one of the devotees' favorite pastimes, the whole month of Damodar is named after this particular pastime. Like Damodar, of course, means Krishna tied around his belly with a rope. Has all these different, like shifting in different moods and conflicts between different moods of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's really one of the things that makes it quite interesting. You know, at one point he's being very merciful, at another point he's being very naughty, at another point, which is Madhurya, basically, at another point he is showing his opulence. And I'm going to go through the story right now, because it's quite easy to give class on this story. So once upon a time, many years ago, in Vrindavan, Yashoda Mai was churning butter. And the interesting thing, this actually brings out the sweetness of Vrindavan atmosphere. Because Yashoda Mai, she has opulence. She's the queen of Vrindavan, right? Queen of Vrindavan. Of course, sometimes Radharani is called Vrindavaneshwari too. Control of Vrindavan. But technically, according to, you know, what do they say? De juris. I don't know if any of you know what that means. Legally, she's the queen. De facto, Radharani is the queen. Do you know the difference between de juris and de facto? No. Anyway, so she's the queen, and Nanda Maharaj is the king. But why is she churning butter? You know, here's someone opulent. You know, if I was of course I wouldn't be a queen, but if I was a king, I mean, I wouldn't be churning butter, fixing my car, even fixing my computers. Pay someone to do it. So she had so many servants. So, I'm giving the contrast right now. She has so many servants, she doesn't have to churn butter or cook things on the stove. So why is she doing such a thing? Well, the Acharyas explain it's because she wanted to sing songs and she didn't want anyone around her. This is, if you read the Bhagavatam, you'll hear this. She wanted to sing songs, but sing songs? What type of songs? Anybody know? About Krishna's pastimes. The pastimes that occurred before. She actually was making up songs, just like it said in Vrindavan, all talking is singing and walking is dancing. So she was actually chanting these beautiful songs about Krishna, the previous pastimes, Krishna killing Putana and everything like that. And just singing and churning away like that. And she was just like in complete ecstasy. And that she didn't want her servants around. Because, sometimes when you're doing something really intimate, you're having a good time, you don't want anyone around you. Actually, Chanakya Pandit says, when eating, it's best to be alone. Anyway, whatever. Traveling, I forget, I think in twos or something like that. But eating is best to be alone because you're doing something that's so ecstatic, taking prasadam. Anyway, so that's why, but Prabhupada, when he would take prasadam, what would he do? He'd sit against the wall, and his servant, you just had to bring him in the hot rotis. They'd come right out of the fire. When I first took sannyas, I had people do that for me too. So they'd come right out of the fire, and Prabhupada would put his spoon on it, and the steam had to come out of it, or else he just sent it back. It's pretty nice, isn't it? But he would just sit against the wall and just relish his prasadam, honor the prasadam. So Yashoda Maya, the reason I'm telling you that is Yashoda Maya just really wanted to relish in private Krishna's pastimes. So she was churning, and she was feeling so much love for Krishna doing that, even though she had all that opulence. And generally, as we are going to hear later on in this story, opulence destroys sweetness. It makes one prideful. You understand? When you become prideful, then there's no more sweetness anymore. You just think, like the Nalakuvara and Manikriva. We'll get to that point in a second. So, but she had no pride at all. Even though she was the queen of Vrindavan. Unlimited opulence. So many cows are described that they had. That's real opulence. Land, cows, servants, followers. And she was just churning. And it's described that she was so much in love with Krishna that the milk was actually dripping out of her breasts as she was churning, and her blouse, whatever they wore at that particular time, was wet. She was just churning. And then all of a sudden, this little guy comes up. I don't remember his name. But anyway, this little guy comes up, and he grabs the stick. She has her eyes closed. And he grabs a stick so that she can't churn. She says, "What's happening here?" She opens her eyes, and she sees Krishna. So there's like a super sweetness there, isn't it? And then Krishna starts tugging on her, whatever, her clothes, and she holds Krishna and breastfeeds him like that, and Krishna's very happy, and she's very happy. It's very, very sweet. And then what happens is that she hears or smells some milk burning in the oven. Remember, she sent all of her servants away. So she's doing all this where she could have someone else do it. And then she puts Krishna down and runs. And you may think, why is she neglecting Krishna? Well, the Acharyas describe that actually because she loves Krishna so much, she understands the milk is for Krishna. And she doesn't want to ruin the milk because it belongs to Krishna. So she has this whole concept that her son, everything is meant for her son. I mean, this is the epitome of mother's love. And you see somewhat of that in this material world where, like Prabhupada said, the highest love that's here in the material world is the love of a mother for a child. It's just like, it's unbelievable. You know, like the stool of the child is sandalwood pulp, and stuff like that. Prabhupada said that. And so, anyway, so she goes, because it's Krishna's milk. It's not that she's neglecting Krishna. She sees the milk is connected to Krishna. Yomam pashati sarvacha, sarvachamayu pashati, tashaham na pranashami, sachame na pranashati. So that's what Bhagavad Gita says, one who sees Krishna everywhere. So she's seeing Krishna everywhere in everything. Everything's connected to Krishna. And then Krishna, of course, he exhibits another, I guess, a Mathurya mood. And he gets really angry at his mother. And he gets up on this grinding mortar, and he uses a stone, and he breaks this yogurt pot. And actually the yogurt is churned yogurt. It's interesting, in Vrindavan, they would make butter from churning yogurt. You know, in America it's made a little bit differently. I guess they skim the cream off, and then they churn the cream, and then they make butter from it. So anyway, so he sat on there, he broke it, and he was eating it, and he was feeding it to the monkeys. Because he was so angry at his mother. You know, that's really Mathurya, that, you know, the sweetness of the Lord's pastimes, and he's exhibiting this anger at his mother. He's forgetting he's God. Just like his mother forgot that she was the queen, so she could, you know, just chant about Krishna and just be alone doing the churning of the butter. So he forgets about that he's God, so he can get angry at his mother. And so thinking, I'm going to show her. So he breaks the butter pot, feeds it to the monkeys, and then she comes and she sees, you know, the signs of the broken pot. And she understands her son, and he's looking around, just like, oh, hope I don't get caught. You know, but she's intelligent. She approaches him from the rear, not from the front, because she wants to catch him. So she approaches him, you know, with a stick in her hand, just to threaten him, and he sees her, and then he starts running away. So then, as he's running away, this is still Mathurya, but then she starts to try to catch him, and then he exhibits his opulence, you know, Aishvarya, because he can't be caught. You know, she's running all over the place, and this, you know, it's a little kid, little legs, you know, and running all over the place, and he just can't be caught. Finally, you know, he gives in, allows her to catch him, and she thinks, you know, this little boy, he's going to get in trouble. I don't want him to hurt himself. I don't want him to do anything, you know, bad anymore for a while. He has to learn a lesson. I guess this is sort of restorative justice, not retributive. She's not trying to make him suffer. Retributive justice means you make someone suffer to learn a lesson. And so she tries to tie him up. And we know, the story goes that every time she tries to tie him up, this is all Aishvarya again, every time she tries to tie him up, the rope is too short, by like 2 fingers or so, 2 inches or something, like that. And so she gets all the rope in the house, and the Acharyas describe that she gets all the rope in the whole village. So they're all aware, you know, these devotees in Vrindavan who are talking about Krishna's pastimes, they're all aware that she went around the village looking for rope or sent someone to get rope. So they're aware, you know, that just like in the verse we just read today, it just says his mother tied him with ropes to a mortar. But it's more than that. His mother tried to get ropes from us and got all the ropes from the village and was always 2 fingers too short. So finally, you know, his mother gets completely fried, frustrated, frankly, you know, has a nervous breakdown, try to tie him up, and he allows himself to be tied. Then she's thinking, finally, So he exhibited his Aishvarya, and then he puts aside his Aishvarya, allows himself to be tied. Again, it's Madhurya. And then he's going, dragging this mortar between these two old Arjuna trees. And actually, these trees were like 100 years old by the calculation of the demigods. And he knocks down these trees. And this is what's being mentioned here. Now, also in the pastime of the Arjuna trees, who the Arjuna trees were in their previous birth, we see these different manifestations of, Aishvarya and Madhurya, etc., like that. Of course, Madhurya in the sense that that Krishna actually blessed them when they were knocked down by Krishna. But even before that, when they were cursed by Narada Muni, we see the different contrasts there. For example, there they were previously Mani Griva Nalakuvara, not Nalakuvera, as most people say. Nalakuvara. So, and the sons of Kuvera, and they possessed a lot of wealth, and the acharyas in that particular chapter of the Bhagavatam describe how when one possesses a lot of wealth, it leads to false pride, it leads to so many problems like that. And oftentimes we talk about how pride leads to the fall, or power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So they became very corrupted, so much so that when they were having this relationship with the heavenly damsels, and they were naked along with the heavenly damsels, they didn't even pay attention to Narada Muni when he came by. And the heavenly damsels were more intelligent. Sometimes people say, contrast the intelligence of women with men, but in this particular case, the damsels were more intelligent than the sons of Kuvera, and they covered themselves, and the sons of Kuvera didn't cover themselves. So Narada Muni, at that point, exhibited his Aishvarya aspect by cursing them, but then the Aishvarya was was also Adarya simultaneously. Here's Narada Muni, great, powerful sage, and he's able to curse. In other cases, we see sages curse, and sometimes, and it's no Adarya there, it's just like, like a Gautama Rishi and Ahalya. Woo! Ahalya, the story? Ahalya, anyway, she had some fault according to the acharyas, but still, it was Indra was the main one responsible. Indra came down, took on the form of Gautama Rishi to have a relationship with Ahalya. And he had a relationship with Ahalya, and Gautama Rishi discovered them. And Gautama Rishi cursed Indra, of course, which is appropriate, to lose his ability to have that sort of relationship again. And of course, Indra underwent a medical operation to restore his masculinity with a ram's testicles. But he also cursed Ahalya. Of course, that was a blessing too, because Ahalya was able to see Lord Ram. But still, we can't really say that he was exhibiting Audarya or mercy. But with Narada Muni, in Narada Muni's case, his cursing was actually a manifestation of Aishvarya and Audarya. In other words, his opulence or power and his compassion. And so he cursed them to become twin Arjuna trees in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj, stand for 100 years, and then Krishna knocked them down. So anyway, so this is a wonderful pastime, showing the contrast between these different aspects of the Lord's pastimes, and even the devotees' pastimes, like Narada Muni's pastimes. So anyone have any questions or comments? I know it's early. Should we read another verse? Because basically this is what... No? Yes? Why not?
There's so much more to say about
so much more to say. I don't have anything more to say. You want to ask a question?
I mean, it's interesting that Rupa Goswami gives this pastime as an example of Anukaleya Krishna Shivanam,
Hmm.
that Mother Yasoda made Krishna angry, and yet it's bhakti because her mood was favorable, whereas Kamsa pleased Krishna by fighting with him, but it's not bhakti because his mood was unfavorable. And this brings up kind of a conundrum. One of the main questions devotees always ask is, how do I know that I'm pleasing Krishna? It's a question that I've asked probably hundreds, if not 1,000 times. And this particular pastime is interesting because Krishna isn't pleased, according to Rupa Goswami and Jiva.
According to Rupa Goswami, what?
And Jiva Goswami and Vishnu, he's actually not pleased, he's angry.
Yeah.
And yet, it's still pure bhakti, even though Krishna was not pleased.
No, he's angry, but he's enjoying his anger. See, Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. He's Rasaraj. So you can say, yes, Krishna is not pleased, but can you say Krishna is not enjoying? I'm asking you a question. That's right. So Krishna is not pleased because Yashodamaya neglected him. But Krishna is enjoying being not pleased because he is enjoying that ras. Enjoying the ras of anger. So once, in one sense, there's a contrast there. Because when you're enjoying, you're pleased. I'm just getting further into this. Thank you for asking that question or making that point. When you're enjoying, you're pleased, but he's not pleased because he's angry. So you have this contrast. So when you actually have contrasts like that between different feelings, it's like a chutney, for example. Prabhupada would talk about how a chutney should be so hot you can't take it, and so sweet you can't resist it. That's why I don't eat chutneys anymore. And so that makes it very relishable. When something is just very dull, or someone is very dull, then there's no contrast. Just like with clothes, like if someone's just wearing one color, like you're wearing just white and I'm just wearing saffron. But of course the garland is kind of nice. There's some pleasing contrast there. And so when you have this contrast between the Lord being displeased with Yashodamaya and enjoying his displeasure with Yashodamaya, that's really what causes you to think. It brings out a lot of the nectar of the pastime, isn't it? Because you can't say that he wasn't enjoying. Because nothing would happen outside the Lord's will. I mean, because Yashodamaya is under what? Yogamaya. So she's controlled by love. And Krishna is also controlled by the love of his devotee. So also when Krishna is angry with Yashodamaya, it's not like the anger that we have when we get angry with someone. What do? We hate them. Yeah, we try to hurt them. When I get angry with someone, sorry, I don't get angry. So, you really have this, what do they say? Prabhupada said, give the dog a bad name and kick him. So you actually put this label on someone. He's a rascal. This is material anger. But when Krishna gets angry at Yashodamaya, it's an anger of love. And it's not like another material baby would get angry at his mother or father for neglecting them. It's just a contrast there. It's just an amazing, he's God. He's controlling everything. He's controlling Yogamaya. He's Aptakama, that whatever he wants happens, yet here's something that he doesn't want happening, but he actually does want it because he's enjoying her, he's enjoying his anger, but he doesn't want her to go away. But he's enjoying it when he gets angry. He doesn't want to go away, and he gets whatever he wants anyway because he's up to kama. I mean, so you put all those things together, and Yogamaya doesn't act independently. Yogamaya is actually acting to fulfill the Lord's desire. So then you bring all these contrasting factors together, and you get what's called a Zen koan. What's the sound of one hand? In other words, you understand that you don't understand the Lord's pastimes, that they're inconceivable. But we can understand that the Lord is interacting in this way out of love with his devotees. And his anger is a manifestation of his love for his mother. Is that all right? Yeah.
So the attorneys also say that when Mother Yashoda was angry, that the reason she couldn't tie him up, well, several reasons. First of all, he wanted to go play.
Yeah.
So he didn't want her to tie him up.
Right.
Get out of there. But also that she couldn't tie him up when she was angry at him. And it was only when she started laughing
Yeah.
that she was able to tie him up. So anything that
And she wasn't also able to catch him until she gave up her anger too. Because she saw him crying, and she actually was really angry, and actually when she caught him, I'm trying to remember the story, that she saw him crying, she actually gave up her anger.
but then she was angry again when she was tying him up, which is why she couldn't tie him up.
Yeah. So she had this anger that was fluctuating in other words, it's described she actually gave up, I was reading that last night, she gave up her anger at the point where she actually caught him. Because she saw him crying and everything like that. And then, so I guess what you're explaining is that she got angry again when she was...
And it's also interesting, like Jambavan also couldn't recognize Krishna while he was angry.
Yeah.
And it was only when he stopped being angry again that he could recognize him. But at the same time, that's one of the rasas for the devotees. And sometimes that involves being angry with Krishna.
Yeah. That's one of the indirect rasas.
I mean, sometimes it involves being angry with Putin or Kamsa, but sometimes it involves actually being angry at Krishna. So when Yasoda's angry at Krishna, or the devotees are angry at Krishna, so it's cowardly.
I mean, what to speak of the Tulsi Shalagram Vivaha pastime?
But even the coward boys get angry when Mother Yasoda calls Krishna to eat, and then they say, if you go home, we're not going to play with you.
Yeah.
So why do we have this contrast that the devotees experience anger at Krishna as a rasa, and yet when they're angry with Krishna, things are blocked somehow, like they can't understand it.
That's just part of the rasa. Yeah, maybe Tadwa, maybe instructive for us. That's one level, but it's part of the rasa. Part of the rasa of anger is you forget about everything else. It's so intense. Whether it's here in the material world or in the spiritual realm. I think Daiva Prabhu had a question. Yeah.
And the Gopal Champu, this pastime kind of comes in full circle when she starts, after she realizes this whole incident has happened and he's pulled down these Arjuna trees, Krishna's kind of rejecting her and she's crying. She's like, upset about everything that's taking place. He's climbed up on Nanda Maharaj's lap and he's being very affectionate with him, and she's sitting over there and she's crying, and so he's kind of rubbing it in a little bit on that.
That's actually really interesting.
But so at one point Nanda Maharaj was like, okay, what am I going to resolve this? He's trying to mend this situation between Krishna and his mother. So he says, well, what should I do? Should I, he raises his hand, and then Krishna, no. And then he jumps down and jumps on.
Yeah.
Yasoda's lap.
That's interesting. Yeah, Krishna is still angry at Yashodamaya. Just like, let me just go to my father. Thank you very much for bringing that up. So this is enjoyment. This is actually enjoyment when you have these different relationships in there. And it's all Yogamaya. I mean, it's part of Krishna's life. I mean, if Krishna didn't get angry at Mother Yashoda, then how could you say he was acting under Yogamaya? Right? Because then he'd still be remembering he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead and she was just acting according to his will.
But it does beg the question, how do we know Krishna's pleased? Because he was so angry at her for both leaving him to take care of the milk and then angry at her for tying him up that he didn't even want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah, but this is a pastime. Yeah, he could never be displeased with Mother Yashoda. Krishna was pleased. Yogamaya arranged the pastime because it was Krishna's desire.
But I'm just saying the acharyas give that as an example of something that's
No, but on one level he's displeased. You have to see it on a different level. On the level of the pastime, he's displeased. I mean, for example, if I was a dramatic actor in a play, and I would get into my role, and you were, whatever, I'd be very angry with you in the role. But when I stepped out of the role later on, I would say, well, you did a real good job as the demon in that play. And I'm very pleased with your acting. So even ordinary human beings can function on both of those levels. Isn't it?
Wouldn't this be another example of Krishna's duality? It's just that he's able to do it with his emotions as well, too?
Yeah, but Krishna, steps into a particular role, but he wants to be displeased. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen if Krishna didn't want to be displeased with Mother Yashoda or angry with Yashoda. He enjoys that. Anyway, these are the inconceivable nature of the Lord. Yeah. Interesting discussion. Thank you for bringing that out. Jai Shishi Radhagalokadanda Ki Jai.
Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Agom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Driya Vriti Manti Vasyan Vipan Vikayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu
Yeah, that's another way to look at it. That's amazing. Adi Purusham Bhajami Govindam Hari Purusham Bhajami Govindam Hari Purusham Bhajami Govindam Hari Purusham Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Jaya Tarune Mandala Mahite Lokula Tarune Mandala Mahite Lokula Tarune Mandala Mahite Lokula Tarune Mandala Mahite Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Jaya Damodara Rate Vardana Vese Harinis Kutabrina Vitpineshe Damodara Rate Vardana Vese Harinis Kutabrina Vitpineshe Damodara Rate Vardana Vese Harinis Kutabrina Vipineshe Damodara Rate Vardana Veshe Harinis Kutabrina Vipineshe Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Jaya Vishapanudare Navasyaseleke Larita Saki Guna Ramita Vishake Vishapanudare Navasaseleke Ladrita Saki Guna Ramita Vishake Vishapanudare Navasaseleke Ladrita Saki Guna Ramita Vishake Vishapanudare Navasaseleke Ladrita Saki Guna Ramita Vishake Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Jaya. Karunam Karumai Karuna Padate Sanaka Sanatana Varni Tacharite. Karunam Karumai Karuna Padate Sanaka Sanatana Varni Tacharite. Karunam Kurumai Karuna Padate Sanaka Sanatana Vanita Charite. Karunam Kurumai Karuna Padate Sanaka Sanatana Vanita Charite. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Jaya. Gokula Tarune Mandala Mahite. Taruni Mandala Mahite. Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Jaya. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Jaya. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Lokinanda Brahate. Jai Radha Lokinanda Brahate. Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe. Radhe, Jaya Sri Radhe. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya All Suteta Satishi Shimad. His Divine Grace Abhaya Chananada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anandakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidway Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shyam Kund Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Maturanam Ki Jai, Devada Sami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shrimati Lasya Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Bastai Buddhaleshri Madhavaktabananta Swami Namaste Saraswati Deva Gorvani Pacharni Nibasesas Nibadi Paschata Deyashatardi. O Radha, all glories unto you, all glories unto you, beloved of Madhava, object of worship for all the young girls of Gokula. You dress yourself in such a way as to increase Lord Damodar's love and attachment for you. You are the controller of Vrindavan, the pleasure groves of Lord Hari. You are a new moon arisen from the ocean of King Vrishabhanu. You are the friend of Lalita, and your wonderful qualities, friendliness, kindness, and faithfulness to Krishna endear you to Vishaka. You are an ocean of compassion, and your divine characteristics are described by the four Kumaras, Sanaka, Sanatan, Sananda, and Sanat Kumar. O Radha, please be merciful to me. Jai. Srila Rupa Goswami Ki Jai.